Howdy peeps, and welcome back to the channel. Today I thought I'd put together what is ostensibly an inbox review. However, given the amount that's actually in this particular box, I won't go through every sprue. You'll see when we get to the manual, I'll actually have a count up of how many sprues are in here, and it's a bit scary. What do we have? We have the SU85 Soviet self-propelled gun or tank destroyer with a full interior by Miniart in 1/35. Kit number 35187. Now, those who either watch the live show or know me will know I do tend to run on a bit about Miniart. I do really enjoy the kits, especially these full interior ones, because they do have lots of parts, lots of small fiddly parts. They're a challenge to put together. They do fit well, they have very tight fit tolerances. If you get one thing slightly sloppy, then later on in the build it'll affect things and problems can magnify, but they're good fun. And my plan with this one is actually to do it as a cutaway to show the interior, so basically leave or take a side out of the casement, maybe a bit out the front, open up the back end so you can see the engine and transmission and all the suspension and everything like that. So without further ado, let's have a look-see in the box. Well, first you'll see it's a pretty thick, deep box, and secondly, I have actually had a look at this before quite a while ago, because I only just got it off the shelf and went, oh, I've already opened that. And oh, bash the camera. As you can see, that box is full of plastic. So let's have a start looking at something, shall we? It'll really bang the camera. I do apologise for that one. So let's start off with the sprue that's on the top, which is, well, you know you've got a lot of sprues. Oh, this is actually sprue B. Some of them go to things like WZ. And as we can see from this sprue, even the lower hull is separate parts. We've got the bottom plate, the side plates, all the suspension goes inside. But if I bring you in a little closer, you'll be able to see the details, and this is where I really think these kits win out. It's just the clarity of the detail and the crispness in a 1/35 kit now, and in the styrene just in general. Now, Miniart have been maligned in the past for having very fragile plastic. Since their move to Kiev and the new style of box art, the plastic is a different blend and is a lot less brittle. As you can see, we've got really crisp panel lines, rivet detail, slight cast detail on the lower hull, on the main upper plate, which is, that's the back, so the engine deck area, and we've got the same rivets, blah blah blah. And you can see by some of these how tiny and fiddly and delicate some of the parts are, and they're not small for this kit. So even the upper engine hatch comes with the option. You can use the plastic one, which still looks really good with the grating on it, or there's one you can use a photo etch with. On the other side, we still have lots of detail. So this is the interior of the lower hull, and you can see all the various fixing points and where everything goes. There are a few ejector pin marks on the insides of the sidewalls, but I do believe there's actually something goes over them anyway. Quite possibly this suspension and other parts that fit on there. And there are none at all inside the top part. So as we can see so far, Details looking really nice. Now, this is one of those sprues. It's interior parts. I'll start with it's sprue 8 and sprue AB. So on this one we have some of the inner bulkheads or firewalls, whatever you want to call them, transmission housing, the cooling fan, just so you can see possibly the amount of rivet detail on that, various control linkages, top covers for the rads, and various, are they storage boxes or are they suspension? They're storage boxes. And on this sprue we have the engine, or most of the engine. And as you can see, I mean, that's pretty much a kit on its own. It does build up into a beautifully detailed version of whichever engine it actually is in the SU85. I can't quite remember. But as again we can see, we've got the really crisp, delicate, fine details, riveting, and the really delicate filigree parts. I mean, some of these plumbing parts are just super fragile, so it can pay to be really careful when you're taking them off the sprue. Even though they're better than they were, they will still be brittle. And if I flip this over so you can see the inside of the cooling fan, if it's going to focus, get my hand across it, there we go. And you can see the level of rivet detail, and it's even in between each of the individual fin blades of the fan. And probably 95% of these that get built, that will never be visible. But yeah, it's things like that are reasons why I really enjoy and I espouse these kits. They are excuse me, value for money wise, way above anything Dragon's done in the last few years. Way above. The detail is either on the same level or above. The moulding the same, there's no flash as you can see. Oh dear, that's better, sorry. Yeah, no flash, you can see the mould lines, seam lines are fairly delicate, and just some of the detail is out of this world. And they make good use of the ejector pin stubs being on the sprue so you don't get them in the plastic parts. I mean, it's just, you know, a sprue, but even that has been slide moulded on that end to get the detail. As you can see, the exhaust pipes and the air filters moulded open, and the seam you can see running along the top there on the exhaust pipe is supposed to be there. But even, as I say, the tiny little clamps with the bolts on already attached, and the flywheel, it's a stunningly moulded piece of plastic. And we see this level of detail, finesse throughout the kit. And here's one of those sprues that shows you just how delicate some of the parts are. Sprue, see, this is all I think mainly driver's compartment, with all the various linkages for all the controls and all the controls. But again, I'll have to bring it up real close just so you can see how well moulded and how delicate some of these parts are. And as I say, I love these kits. They're not for everyone, don't get me wrong. I mean, this is a complex build. I say, just that floor plate there with the grating on it, it's just gorgeous. And again, repeated on the back, we can see we've got hundreds and hundreds of ejector pin pads on the sprue rather than the parts. And I just realised I'm never going to get this back in the box once I've taken it all out. Back to some chunkier parts. We have our front and rears of our fenders, rear transmission case, upper vents for the engine deck, rear plate. These are actually the suspension modules. You actually have the damper assembly stuck inside them all, and it is visible from the outside of the tank. But again, beautifully moulded, lovely plastic. Next up we have another double sprue. Sprue H, I believe, yes. As you have some more stowage, the ammo bin or ammo stowage. That isn't an MG, that is just a control lever. The slide moulded one piece barrel. It isn't rifled, but you can't have everything, I suppose. And obviously with it being a full assembly, it does come with the complete breech, everything inside. When we have a quick, I say it will be a quick look through the instructions, but it will take quite a while. You'll see that just how much there is inside of these. How 5 men managed to fit in there as well, I don't know. And on the gun mantlet itself, we've got a really nicely done casting texture on there. It's not overly done like some are, it's fairly subtle, but it will still show through the paint. And the commander's cupola, or part of the mount for it, we can see the weld bead around the edge of that. Very delicate, very gentle. Gentle? Very gentle when you sand it, because otherwise you'd lose half the detail. And the rest of these parts are mainly the gun breech and the hatches, or parts of gun breech and hatches. As we can see again, I've done a really good job of keeping the ejector pin marks off of the parts. Next we have what is the main upper part of the fighting compartment. It's a bit tricky to figure out which way to hold these because they are detailed on both sides, being full interior. This is the interior side, and again, as you can see, no flash, no mould lines, beautifully detailed ejector pin marks if there are any out of the way. And also with the roof, you can see most of it's nice and smooth, but that bit's got the lovely cast texture on it as well. So it's got the attention to detail there. I mean, even something like these, just around the edges of those hinge mounts, you can see the weld beads on them. So, given the fact that, I mean, the amount of sprues, the amount of parts, what you get in the kit, the fact that these are usually around, I think, between £40 and £50, compare that to the cost of a modern Dragon kit, you're getting a lot more bang for your buck. This is sprue EA, yes. We have an idler, we have part of one of the fuel drums, various small parts, dampers, blah blah blahs. But you can see here this spring, oh, get my other hand in the way so it focuses properly, it is slide moulded and it is actually a spring made out of styrene. Once you've snipped that off and cleaned it up, it is a functioning spring. So yeah, you get that kind of thing with them. Obviously there are dozens of, this is sprue FG, which is just the wheels. But again, I mean, that's the inside sides of the wheels, and you've got all the rivet and bolt and whatever detail there as well, which is never going to be visible. And then on the outside, do have a little bit of flash around the hubs and the wheels, but that is really, really soft flash. and they've probably made a boatload of these kits by now, so as you can see, I mean, everything, and there's going to be rattling noises as I go through, because there are some sprues in here you get 10 plus of. Ooh, what have we got next? So now we're into the smaller sprues. Sprue E, which we'll have 2 of, which is the radiators and the brake drums and a few other random parts. But again, if I bring that up nice and close, you can see the fidelity and the level of detail on those rads. Just how delicate that is. It's making the camera do weird things. And this one, which is EE, is mainly just I say filigree, tiny little parts and a tow rope. Admittedly, the way the tow rope is attached could make life awkward. There's going to be some clean up on that, definitely. But then again we can see how small some of these parts are. I mean, I've got small hands and small fingers, but you know, tiny little parts, and they're all perfectly crisply moulded. I will probably replace the tow cables, to be fair, because one of the downsides of Miniart kits is they'll give you a straight tow cable like that, but it doesn't fit on anything straight. You have to bend it. There's the other Radiator Sprue, and obviously being this kind of kit, it does have individual link tracks, of which we have several sprues. There is one kind that come on runners like that in a plastic bag, which are the flat ones, and the ones with the guide horns come on the sprues. So I'll hold them up, you can see, beautifully detailed. The cleanup isn't going to be a pig. The sprue gates are in sensible places. Do they have the moulding? Yeah, they do even have. Oh, it's going to be real close and you might not be able to see, but just on the edges of the track links there you can see the casting numbers, very fine. I mean, once you put a layer of paint on, of course you'll never see them, but they're there. Same goes with these ones. I won't bother getting them out of the bag. So same kind of thing, they're just the flat ones. So, and now we're into all the little dinky, random, odd sprues of all sorts. So I'll just grab a selection. Oh, that one's a little larger. Have we looked at one of them already? Yes, we have. So we get 2 different kinds of ammo, or 3 I think actually. APCR and HE, all really nicely moulded again. These things carry quite a lot of ammo, so you're going to need a bit. Sprue JA, yeah, they've got that bad. We have the actual main not ball mount, but the main gun mount, the movable part of the mantlet, and the vent cover for the roof. Again, we've got that same lovely cast texture, and what looks like flash around the vent cover is actually weld seam. So when you stick it on, it looks like it's been welded on. So we have more of the running gear, so we've got more of the swing arms, probably an idler arm, the suspension housings and the gas tanks, just 2-part. There'll be a little bit of a seam to clean up, but nothing too bad. They fit really quite well. Another teeny tiny sprue, EF, again with a shell and a few other little random parts. Sprue FM, which is the smoke launchers, I'm guessing, and a few other little bits. Sprue F, which has the fuel barrel clamps, more parts of the suspension, and various little greebly fiddly bits, as well as the wheel hub covers. And there are, I'll grab the box and let you see, yeah, there's just a bunch of tiny little sprues in there, all fairly similar. Now there's nothing that stands out as being poorly moulded, mismoulded, flashy, anything like that. Oh, smack that camera again sharp. But obviously we also get some photo etch. There's not a huge amount with this one, I don't believe. He says hoping it is actually in here. It is. Just the one sheet, yes. If I place it down again, you'll see some very delicate fiddly parts on there. Whether anything will need soldering or whether it all just glues on is another matter. I will just zoom in on that for you for a moment, just so you can take in just how small some of those bits are that you're going to be trying to glue on. And specifically things like these tiny little circular parts and the tool clamps and all that. So lots and lots of detail. There is, I think it works at about an 800 part kit when it's all done. Oh, just run, oh, smack that camera. I'm having a really bad day with the camera today, aren't I, for smacking into it. Next we have the clear parts, which are just light lenses, periscopes, so nothing to write home about. And the decals, decals, water slide transfers. I think it's originally a French word, probably comes from décolletage or something like that, so probably decal would be about correct, but I'm going to call them decals because yeah, I'm not that great or clever. Decal wise, no, there's very little carrier film. The transfers themselves look, you know, they're thin. And bear in mind, if we choose to use the ones that's got the writing on it, then yeah, but other than that, it's literally just going to be a few numbers going on. So if I angle this, you can actually see the white against the blue. But yeah, it's an armour kit, so the decals really aren't that important. And if you've built more than one Russian tank, you've probably got a spare set of those anyway kicking about. Yep, there is the sound of the excess sprues dropping in the box. And here we have our instruction manual, which is glossy covered. It's really nice. Pictures of the actual built model without paint, so you can see the level of detail you're going to get on the engine, transmission, all the interior. Just the actual fighting compartment itself is, or the driver's station is just ludicrous. And then as it looks built up, as you can see, it's a gorgeous looking kit. So if we go through, on the first page, a bit of history about it, the specifications in English and Russian, colour info and profiles by Ammo MiG, so yeah, but they're all just written down. I like the way they've done it, where they've not only given you the MiG number, okay, they haven't given you any others, but they've given you the name and they've actually given you a swatch of the colour beside it. How accurate it is remains to be seen, but you know, better to have and not need than not have and need. So then we start out with our sprue tree. Should we have a count up? Yeah, we've got a couple of minutes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14. Okay, that's probably enough to scare most people off. 15, 17, 19, 21, 23, 25, 35, 45, 47, 57, 61, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76. So yeah, 76 sprues. Just a few. We have our legend of what the various things mean. They're pretty much the same as usual. And we start with popping the engine together. As you can see, clear, concise. All the detail, everything you need to know to build the kit is in here. You know, where everything goes. It's pretty clear how it fits. And you can't really complain, but as you can see, it soon builds up into a fairly monstrous and kind of overwhelming kit. So we're still only on the second page, and we've got the transmission gone in, the fan, starting to put all the drivers station together, air filters, blah blah blah, engine going in, dampers going in, sidewalls, ammo stowage. It's when you get the sidewalls on you realise just how little room there was inside one of these things. I built the SU122, which is pretty much the same kit bar the gun. I think there's not a lot of difference in them. Onto the gun breech and mounting and assembly, and then we finally start putting the larger bits on the front of the fighting compartment. Gun going in. Thankfully in this one the gun does mount to the front of the fighting compartment rather than on the SU122 the gun mounted into the floor, and that made it really awkward to get the front end together. And again, the inner sides of the various parts of the upper superstructure, how to switch things around if you want the hatches open, what things to do differently, different parts, more ammo stowage, wheels, sprockets, idlers all going on. Then we're onto the rear deck with all the various bits going on to that. The sides go on, the rear deck goes on, rear plate, a few other little odds and sods and bits. No, the tow cables do run straight on this, so we might be able to get away with using those. Tracks on, 72 links per side, 36 of each. And the various extra plates. There's actually etch on the inside of the fenders, which I might fold one of them up, you never know. And we're just onto different kind of hatches, the clamps for the barrels, putting the rest of the barrels on with the rest of the clamps and different styles, and a couple of bits of stowage, a few random small tiny parts, and job done. Colour scheme wise we do only get 2, although you could easily have a look and figure out which one you'd rather do. There are probably several more pictures online. One was it unidentified unit 93 44 winter, and under the name of Czech hero Kapitan Otakar Jaros, 1st Czechoslovak Armoured Brigade 1944-45, which is just in the 4BO green. and then onto the back cover. So as you can see, you do get an awful lot in the box. There is an awful lot of model kit going on there, and they're not for the faint-hearted, but if you put a dragon kit together, if you like a bit of a challenge, go for it. They are kind of expensive, I suppose, at £40–50, but given what you get for that kind of money these days, that's not really too bad. Especially as say something like a dragon kit of a I don't know, Panzer 38T or so. They're going for over £50 now. So would I say one of the Miniart modern kits is worth it? Oh, definitely. Oh, that way round. So let me know what you think of these. Would you build one? Have I just scared you completely off of buying anything with Miniart name on it? They do these without the interior, I will say that. However, as Simon, Scale Model Jedi, found out, there's not an awful lot less to them when you take the interior out. You still got a lot of kit there. But yeah, when I say something is my kind of kit, this is what I mean. I say that little Miniart SU85 I'm building, don't get me wrong, it's a great kit. If I wasn't doing it for a build series, I'd have probably managed to knock that together in 2 days. And I think they're 35, around about 30–35, somewhere like that. So for the extra 15 quid or whatever it was, and it's not a huge amount extra to get this much kit, to me, I'm not going to say no. It's what I enjoy. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed what I've been waffling on about for the last half hour. It seems some people don't like my waffling. Well, tough, because it's just the way I am. Anyway, enjoy your modelling, have fun, rock on, and peace out. Bye bye.